Good evening, Hawkeye friends. Lindsay's given me the high sign, and it is a pleasure to be here tonight. I always enjoy seeing you, and don't tell Oklahoma East or the Newton Kiwanis or the North Quarter Rotary, but you're my favorite group to speak to. I'm at Oklahoma East tomorrow, and I'll tell them the exact opposite. But no, it's a pleasure and an honor to share a Hawkeye update with you tonight on behalf of President Barbara Wilson and Athletic Director Gary Barda. I think you may remember I affectionately termed Oak Knoll Pentecost West, with all the loyal, enthusiastic, generous support as fans, as contributors, as retirees from faculty and staff at the university. We value this relationship, and it's our responsibility to stay in touch with you here, as many of you still come to our Kinnick and Carver and other venues. But it's great to be here tonight. And I mentioned President Barbara Wilson. I think she's been here just over a year, so she's not the new president anymore. And she's a great fit for our institution. A great breadth and depth of higher education administrative experience at Champaign-Urbana and then in Chicago with the Illinois system. And she's very comfortable, very good communication skills, and she's going to be a marvelous leader for us. And then I mentioned Gary Barda. He has been a great leader for us. He's entering his 17th year as Director of Athletics for the Hawkeyes. And for a long time, our fans would call him the new AD. You know, bump from 1970 to 91, 21 years, followed by Bob Bowlesby from 1991 to 2006. So those are big shoes to fill. And Gary has passed Bob's longevity and is approaching Bump's longevity. And we'll talk more about Gary in a bit. Lots to cover. Could be here till the 9 o'clock news or the 10 o'clock news, but that's not my goal. We'll try and hit some things. I'll probably miss some things that you want to hear, so we'll have time for questions and answers. And we're always looking for answers, especially nowadays. And we'll also get to some door prizes. But it's an exciting and energetic time of year, both on and off campus. State fairs in full swing. Students are moving into the dorms and apartments. If you drive around town, they're on Hubbard Park playing volleyball. They're on the Pentecost. There's a lot of lines to park downtown. Just the energy and excitement is there, and that's what makes Iowa City special. Mentioned the state fair. Gary Barda was up there to show the flag on Sunday with the State Fair Board of Directors. And Clarissa Chung, our new women's wrestling coach, was also at the fair. And there hasn't been much coverage of it, but Saturday she participated in the 40th annual Governor's Celebrity Steer Show. Talk about a road game. She goes into the livestock pavilion filled with agriculture folks, obviously with ties to Iowa State in many instances. She was showing Maverick and 12-year-old Tate Nelson from Nichols, Iowa. Did a great job. They were a great combination, and they won the People's Choice Award, showing a 1,500-pound steer at the Governor's Celebrity Steer Show. The proceeds go to support the Ronald McDonald houses, but she's a dynamo. We'll talk more about her later, but yes, hats off to her. She's probably wondering what I was talking about when I suggested she represent the Hawkeyes. But some other things on campus before we talk about the Hawks. You're probably aware of the Standing Museum of Art is going to open up later this month. The institution, we're excited about that. after the flood of 2008. There's been a lot of patience and hard work, but it's going to be a great new home for our Museum of Art. Hanscher's celebrating their 50th anniversary. Congratulations and thanks to Chuck Swanson, who retired, and we're in really capable hands with Andre Perry, who used to oversee the English Theater and other cultural activities around town, so we're excited there. I did notice driving around yesterday on campus, the CAM bus were rolling with a lot of students on them, and intermittent flashes of CAM bus drivers wanted, $17.50 an hour. So if you're looking for a little part-time job, caught my eye. I wouldn't be qualified, but no, we're entering Gary's 17th year as Director of Athletics. 22 sports, 650 student athletes, about 225 employees, $130 million budget, lots of upgrades and facilities going on, and just like you experienced COVID, it was a challenge for the athletic department a few years ago, and we incurred a $50 million debt at that time, which we are paying off to the institution. But the pursuit of excellence by our coaches, our student athletes, our staff continues, and it's really been a heck of a run the last few years. Last year, we had 6 Big Ten team championships. 6 Big Ten team championships, the most in any year since the 80s. Across the board, representing a lot of sports. Some iconic Hawkeyes that will be Hall of Famers in their day down the road, but you know, a Caitlin Clark, a Keegan Murray, a Spencer Lee. We're blessed with some great coaches. Besides those 6 Big Ten team championships, we had a handful of Big Ten Coaches of the Year. Lisa Salucci in field hockey. She won the Big Ten Coach of the Year for the 3rd straight year, and we won the Big Ten regular season title. Joy Woody, an Iowa City native, continues to do a great job with our track and field program. They won the Big Ten indoor title. Would have won the Big Ten outdoor title, barring some injuries. They finished 2nd. But he was Big Ten Coach of the Year again. Obviously, we're blessed with some great leadership administratively and then down at the coaches. So some quick highlights. Can't cover all 22 sports and cover all our student athletes. I'll highlight a few and we can circle back afterwards if you want more. And certainly with media these days, you're oftentimes more attuned to what's going on than we in Carver Hawkeye Arena are. We don't have time to go online and see what the recruiting is going on or things like that. But football, Kirk's 24th year, just a rock solid program. We're blessed. Hayden went 20 years, Kirk 24 years. We're the only institution in major college football history to have back-to-back 20-year head coaches. So great continuity of leadership. Last year, Big Ten West Division champions, 10-win regular season, a January 1 bowl bid, beat Illinois for the 7th straight year, beat Nebraska for the 7th straight year, beat Minnesota for the 7th straight year, beat Iowa State for the 6th straight year. They got lucky because the COVID year canceled that game. Otherwise it would have been 7. But an All-American, first-round draft choice in Tyler Lindebaum. Certainly some disappointment, some frustration, but that year just didn't fall out of the sky. That was a great year, and they deserve credit for that. It's in the rearview mirror. We're excited about the fall. We just had Kids Day, just short of 3 weeks now to finish up preparation for the season opener, and we appreciate the loyal support. We're sold out at Kinnick Stadium. Almost 70,000 Hawk fans each game will be cheering us on. Well, we do have to sell a few tickets to the visitors, but going to be great support there. And that hasn't happened since 2011. You know, we oftentimes sell out the Big Ten games or the big games, but this year all 7 home games are sold out, and we're excited about that. Mentioned Kirk entering his 24th year. Lisa Luter's entering her 23rd year. Another rock-solid program. You're fully aware, some great Hawkeyes, Caitlin Clark and Monica Sonano. Oftentimes people talk about a 1-2 punch. We got a 1-1 punch with Caitlin and Monica to win the Big Ten regular season title, win the Big Ten tournament, to sell out the last 3 home games, the game we beat Michigan for the Big Ten title, and then the 2 NCAA games. And certainly some disappointment at the end of that year, and it's just fueled us to work that much harder, and excited to see it's going to be a really veteran team. Men's basketball, Fran McCaffrey entering his 12th year. Another great accomplishment last year with the Big Ten tournament title. Keegan Murray, we're looking for big things this coming year. It was a bonus to have Chris Murray return for another year, and we all should be cognizant it's Chris Murray, it's not Keegan Murray. He'll develop at his pace, but his work ethic, his demeanor is just like Keegan. And great parents, including their father, Kenyon Murray, a former Hawkeye. So you like to see good things happen to good people. Wrestling, 3rd in the country, and they're disappointed. That shows you the level of expectations, but they competed very well. Some great Hawkeyes, including Spencer Lee and some others. We're excited. If you've driven by Carver, south of Carver, we did have to take down some trees, but that ravine that was there will become the new home for the wrestling program. Our women's wrestling and men's wrestling program. It's going to be a state-of-the-art training facility, extensive mat space, extensive strength and conditioning space, space for medical treatment, coaches' offices, and a great forum for displaying the history of Hawkeye wrestling. That profile will not loom over the arena. It'll be at ground level, and it's going down, and it'll be connected to Carver by a tunnel for the wrestlers to come out of. And that leads into Coach Clarissa Chung. I mentioned her. We are ecstatic to hire a coach of her experience, achievement, personality, caliber. She represented this country at several Olympics and was a bronze medalist. She was a 5-time Pan American Game gold medalist. She has been a coach of the Olympic team for several years in Colorado Springs, and she is starting a program from scratch. We're the first Power 5 conference to step up, and it's important that we did that, to be leaders. This year, she has been recruiting. This year, we will wrestle unattached, and then we'll start intercollegiate competition the fall and winter of 23-24. So she's been recruiting all over the country, and frankly, able to recruit at the highest of levels. But her personality will win you over. It's understandable she can recruit well. What she did over in Des Moines at the Governor's Celebrity Steer Show. So track and field, mentioned Joey Woody. They won the indoor Big Ten championship, Coach of the Year. Field hockey, the Big Ten regular season title. Lisa, Coach of the Year again. Baseball was 3rd in the Big Ten. Disappointed they just missed the NCAA. So a lot of positives. Our Gary's theme is win, graduate, do it right. So winning certainly is very important as a Big Ten institution. We compete at the highest of levels. So we've been on a good run, but more to come. Some quick hitters. You may know or have heard, but University, we've commissioned a documentary on the late Christine Grant, great leader for us, who passed away this last year. So in the coming months, you'll see some publicity on a documentary on her impact, not just on the University of Iowa, but on the country for young ladies. And also a documentary that is premiering August 24th on Now Kinnick. And you may think, well, gosh, isn't there enough on Now Kinnick? But Scott Sipker, the Mr. Iowa Nice on ESPN and some other media outlet, has put together a very thoughtful, emotional, impactful documentary. So that'll be released and be on television on some outlets, but I think they'll also be at the Chauncey later in the fall. Celebration of Title IX, 50th year anniversary, 1972. Our institutions recognize that, and we're also going to recognize 50 years of women's intercollegiate athletics at Iowa that first started in 1973. One of your Oak Knoll neighbors, President Sandy Boyd, started that and selected Christine Grant to lead that program back in 1973, so we're proud of that. I'm sure a few weeks ago everyone in this room knew that the Big Ten was going to add USC and UCLA. That occurred very quickly. The presidents and the ADs moved quickly. The Big Ten has evolved over the decades. Chicago used to be a member. Michigan State joined it in the early 50s. You're probably more attuned to Penn State in the early 90s, and Nebraska, then Rutgers, Maryland. And, at the core, it's a great collection of major public research institutions, and then one private, Northwestern, that's not half bad. But the pursuit of academic success, the pursuit of athletic success, the alumni base, these are great institutions. And schools are going to do what's in their best interest, and conferences are too. The new commissioner, Chuck Warren, moved quickly on that, and our coaches, you'll hear stories, learned of it out at stores and seeing the ESPN trailers, so they moved quickly. But USC and UCLA fit the profile academically. They're AAU institutions, certainly strong athletic programs, and then no denying they will strengthen the economic foundation of the conference. With enhanced television rights, those are under negotiations now, but you'll see a significant increase. But to pay for scholarships, pay salaries, build state-of-the-art facilities, medical treatment, academic advising, training tables, those things don't fall out of the sky. Increased media revenue will be helpful, and an increased presence. A lot of I's to dot, a lot of T's to cross. One question is the travel, and certainly on occasion we'll have to go west. Many of our sports do go west already, golf, track and field. They go to California, they go to Texas, they go to Florida, they go to Arizona, so that's not going to be unusual. An example, our soccer team is going to open up our 2022-2023 season competitively out of UCLA on Thursday. So they had scheduled that before the expansion notice. But so we'll have some work to do, but we think it's for the good of the conference. We're not going to add institutions that just reslice the pie. This will enlarge the pie, and it'll be good for our student athletes, and that's the bottom line. Mentioned Win, Graduate, Do It Right. This last year, our student athletes had an average GPA of 3.22. In my day, it took me 2 semesters added up together to get to 3.22, but we're proud of that. And then besides the change in conference alignment, you've probably heard things like name, image, likeness, transfer portal, collective. There's a lot of change going on in intercollegiate athletics. And probably the only thing I would suggest, however the landscape looks today, will not be how it looks probably a year from now or 2 years from now. And we've endeavored to take good care of our student athletes with great coaches, great facilities. We added a cost of attendance stipend several years ago. They're going to have an academic achievement stipend upon matriculation through enhanced training tables, things like that. But you're fully aware there is a move to compensate student athletes. So we're not going to ignore it. Our coaches are very competitive. They have great pride, and they don't want to be out recruited. So we will move ahead. We've had some student athletes that have had name, image, likeness relationships with business, and that's great for them. You maybe have been in stores where you've seen Spencer Lee t-shirts, or been in Hy-Vee and see Caitlin Clark as a spokesperson for Hy-Vee, or the Murray brothers doing a commercial for the local Mexican restaurant downtown with their dad. So those will continue. That's between the student athletes and those businesses. The transfer portal, where student athletes have unlimited transfer and can do that and become eligible within a semester. There needs to be some guardrails there, so we'll see how that shapes up. But change is upon us. We're going to react prudently in the Iowa way and try and do things in a classy manner. So that's a quick overview of the Hawkeye enterprise. Doesn't do justice across the board, but it is an exciting time of year. Certainly can do some questions and answers here shortly, but I know some people have started to leave. Maybe we'll do the door prizes and then get to Q&A. And I have no pride or modesty. I know you're here because of the free door prizes and the free handouts, so I don't take it personally. So, but Lindsay will. Now I'm sure everybody read the rules and can recite those to me, right? Print legibly. You need to be present to win. You have to act excited. If you don't act excited, you're going to get booed by the crowd and it'll be taken away. So you can pull out the next one. We've got an array of some t-shirts, Big Ten men's and women's, football, some media guides, lanyards, even have Ron Gonder, a familiar voice, with some memorable calls on his radio shows. So no refunds or exchanges, and somebody stuffed the ballot box with blanks. Pat Leonards. Pat, come on up. Now, there's a lot of connections here at Oak Knoll, and Pat is very proud of. Come on up. You can probably get all this stuff from your son, but vice president for the university. So there you go. Sharon Ulrich. We'll move quick. We'll have Oak Knoll residents on your heels. Chuck Helms. Chuck, go on up there. Got to move quick. Check out the sizes on the shirts. They Charlie Nutsker. Sorry. Charlie? Sarge going to get you something there? No problem. Glad you got something. Okay. Kathy? Yeah. It's Kathy. Come on up there. Looks like the lanyards and the hats are still there. Colleen Chapman. We're looking for the entry that has a $20 bill stuck to it like normal. We haven't found that one yet. Marcia Greiner. Okay, that's kind of you, Marshall. Fran Gruenhaupt. Is that you gonna pass? That's a collegial group here at Oak Knoll. Keith Niehaus. All right, Keith. The crowd says stir 'em up. Stir 'em up. We're down to Ron Gonder, football highlights, lanyards, and a Hawkeye Greats by number, which is really pretty cool. Don Hanson. One lanyard gone there. William Stanford. Okay. Do you think you want a lanyard or a Ron Gonder CD?
Probably a lanyard.
Lanyard? Okay, there you go. Dan Schweer. And I think we're keeping this to residents. Yeah. I know. Dan is a close friend of mine too. We're Little Hawks, so I'll make it up to Dan at a future time, but we'll keep it to residents. Dick Huffeld. Lanyard or a Ron Gonder highlight CD. And take a CD back because I just drew Judy. That's kind of a Judy. Jim Hansen. Grab that. We won't tell Ron that his CDs went last. Lowell Lumen. Lowell, you got a CD there. Well, I thought we'd do that to be fair to folks that may have to leave or folks that I've put to sleep. But how about we just do some time for questions? And like I said, we're always looking for answers too. So, yes.
You mentioned guardrails to the transfer portal. What were you referring to? That you would prefer. Right?
Yeah, I do not speak in that situation on behalf of the department. The transfer portal, I mentioned right now, it's literally instantaneous. Charlie Jones decided this spring, and he'll be eligible at Purdue, and we wish him all the best. It was great to have him for a couple of years. But there's just an inordinate amount of kids that are just, they're not playing enough, or the coach yelled at them, or they, frankly, are getting an NIL deal from another school. So, literally a couple thousand basketball players were in the transfer portal in the recent year. And once you enter that, the school that you're leaving is not obligated to take you back. So a sizable chunk of them didn't find a new home. In the old day, student athletes sat out a year in some of the high-profile sports. Football, basketball, women's basketball. Not all of them. Many of the Olympic sports you can transfer. Fran is an example. He transferred after his freshman year and ended up at Penn. And he said it was great for his maturation to sit out a year and progress. So, people say, well, coaches change and, you're taking away the kids' rights, and you can argue both sides of any issue, but I think you might see sitting out a year as a possibility. I think unlimited. Right now, you've had kids that have transferred 3 straight years. So, instant gratification, easy for me to say. But yeah, I think you'll see some changes in the transfer portal.
Thank you.
We've been very judicious in its use. You know, we've brought in a few kids in football. We've lost a few. But, you know, Kurt or Fran or Lisa, they don't want to build a roster every year in the transfer portal. There's an institution west of here that made extensive use of it a year ago for a very successful basketball team. But I don't think, I shouldn't speak for you, but I don't think you'd want to see 5, 6, 7, 8 new transfers every year on your basketball team. So.
The NIL, two problems that people talk about. One is the obscene amount of money that's being dangled in front of 17-year-old high school kids to come to the school. But the second thing is the lack of...
Excuse me, doctor. Yeah, finish.
It's the lack of equity. You've got 650 athletes, about 10 of whom are going to benefit. But the gymnasts and the field hockey people and the rowers and the track people, they aren't going to get the NIL. Is this fair?
Fair is a moving target. One, NIL is not supposed to be used for recruiting purposes. We all know and read about some things. And the amounts of money that you read about, you know, till it plays out. Let's see. There is a swarm collective set up outside the institution, endeavoring to help the Hawkeyes. They're going to be focused on football, women's basketball, men's basketball to start. And those coaches have agreed, they don't make the decisions for the swarm, but those student athletes would all receive a set figure as opposed to, no, a set flat figure. You know, Chris Murray wouldn't be as the star, you know, getting X times what other kids are. Yeah. Question will be, how quickly does the swarm gear up? They've got some talented people, some former colleagues that are great people. Glad that they're doing it as opposed to others. And we had a golfer invest to set up an organization. The key, we get great support every year. Annual support, capital support, endowment support. That doesn't go away. We need our fans and friends to keep giving that. And if they want to support the student athletes directly, the swarm is an option. But we just can't reslice. So it'll be interesting. We're going to do it our way. Hopefully that'll hold. The coaches are concerned about the locker room. You don't want one kid getting X and another kid getting Y. So because it's outside the institution, you know, there are kids that are doing their own NIL deals. Field hockey, God bless them. I listened to the radio, and a couple girls are doing a commercial for, I think it was North Tire. They're getting free oil changes for doing that commercial. So, you know, God bless them. Good for them. You like hearing that energy. You know, kids getting experience running their own camps. Selling t-shirts, all that. There's a lot of benefits to that. But like I said, however it is today is not going to be probably what it is a year or 2 years from now. There's going to be a lot of changes. The swarm that's set up wants the kids to do some charitable intentions, maybe help table to table or United Way or things like that. But we'll see how it develops. Now wrestling, you can cut the video. They had their own collective for decades. Roy Carver. Yes.
What is the relationship with Ticketmaster for the Big Ten conference tournaments, and what percentage does the University of Iowa benefit from these exorbitant fees that we pay when we go to a tournament that Ticketmaster has to have?
Yeah, I'm afraid to be stepping outside some expert knowledge. The pandemic, in many situations, accelerated some societal change, including ticketing. Digital ticketing. We're farther along on digital ticketing now than we would have been without the pandemic. We still will accommodate requests because not everyone is comfortable yet with that. You mentioned tournaments. The rapidity of turning those around, say the Big Ten Championship football in Indianapolis, to turn that around in just a matter of days, needed to rely on agreements the Big Ten had with Ticketmaster, things like that. So I'll certainly bring your comment and complaint, I take. I see it when I buy concert tickets. It is aggravating to see access charges and handling charges, and it's like buying another ticket. So, but digital ticketing, using Ticketmaster for some conference events, things like that's not going to turn back. So, yes. Yeah. Huh. Well, Pat has some inside access. She's the grandmother of Kelsey Laverty, who's the head of our marketing department and does a great job. Iowa City Regina grad, a great athlete in her right. And asking on the next quarterback, Spencer Petras, God bless him, is it's amazing that the most fans' favorite is whoever the second team quarterback is. He's 13-6 as our starting quarterback. And Kirk has mentioned it's still a wide open competition, but those of you who saw Kids Day, it was clear that Spencer and Alex Padilla are more experienced and farther along than Levis, our third team quarterback. But personally, I'd be surprised if it's not Spencer. And the effectiveness of the quarterback is often directly tied to the offensive line. And we had our challenges last year in offensive line. We're hoping to have a more experienced, talented offensive line this year that'll help the quarterback, the running game, the passing game. But I tell you, Spencer Petras, you would be all proud to have him as your son. And he's a great leader in the locker room. He's philanthropically inclined of his time and even his resources. And he's a winner. And the margin is so small at that highest level. So, let's hope this can be a magical year. But that being said, now watch Alex Padilla be named starter tomorrow. But, and he's another good kid. Yes?
When the new wrestling building is done, and will the Chung Legends be down there in the south end, in the Carver? Will the team switch their bench side? Will the Iowa team now sit on the south and the visitors have to sit on the north end?
It's a very good question, legitimate question, and when you think about it, you're saying, I do not know. But I'll ask Coach to... Yes, sorry. The question on the new Carver Circle facility for the men's and women's program will have a tunnel that enters into the arena at the south end. And the question, will that change the home and visiting benches? So, good question. I would only be guessing at this point. So.
And can you request a seat change?
Well, we're selling season tickets, so that's a very good question, and I'll alert the ticket office to that in case people call in. So if you're looking for a guy who has a little authority as the next, that would be me. So I don't know if we've flipped the benches for wrestling due to that yet. Thanks for asking, though, and I'll suggest to Coach and the ticket office. Yes.
How many recruits does the new women's coach have?
That's a good question.
What was it?
How many recruits does the women's program, and keep coaching me, sorry, the women's program get? You know, football has 85 scholarships, and we've got 13, well now 14 women's sports and 8 men's sports. And that disparity on teams is because football has 85 scholarships, and you're trying to make up the differential for equity purposes. One of the tenets of Title IX is a proportionate use of scholarship money based on your school enrollment. University of Iowa has had a majority of female students for a long time. It's only increasing. So a lot of things went into dropping sports, financial, not the least of which compliance with Title IX, whether you and I or they like it. That's the federal law. Wrestling has men's wrestling has 9.9 scholarships. I do not know specifically on women's. My guess is they would have more. Every women's sport has more scholarships in their commensurate men's sport to try and make up that differential. For instance, women's basketball has 15 scholarships. Men's basketball has 13. And you go through commensurate sports. Women's golf has more scholarships than men's golf, and those are NCAA. We fund every allowable NCAA allowed scholarship, but my guess would be that women's wrestling maybe has a dozen or 14 or something like that, and those will get cut up. Men's 9.9 scholarships, it's rare that anybody's on a full ride. You have some literally national champions or Big Ten champs that are getting room and board, or getting tuition, or even getting books. So
She has quite a few commitments, so.
she does. And the challenge is to space things out and get a program going. She can't, turn over 10, 12, 14 scholarship kids down the road the same year. So she's going to space them out. Getting a lot, I wanted answers, and all I'm getting is questions that I'm going to have to go figure out. So that's a great question, though. I would suggest women's wrestling has more than men's wrestling. It's just a matter of how many more. Yes?
Status of men's swimming and diving program.
Yeah, that's a tough subject. And, those were our kids, our coaches, our little winners, our program, our history, our tradition. And amidst the pandemic and Title IX, it was tough. Gary, you're not the AD or Barbara Burke or our other senior administrators there to limit opportunities for young people. But I do not see those men's sports coming back. Credit to the gymnastics team. They won the national club title this past year. Great credit to them. Men's gymnastics, tough situation. Only about 15 or so Division I programs before we cut ours. So I don't know how long that'll be offered at that level. You ache. I don't have the answer you want, but that's the realistic answer at the moment. Lou?
Andy, I might have an answer that I think is correct here, but I believe that the Hawkeye Marching Band's away game this year is going to be Ohio State. And it's going to be a little unique because the two bands, as I understand, are going to do halftime together. And part of the reason for that, maybe a major reason, is that the director, assistant director, I'm not sure of his title at Ohio State, is an Iowa graduate and has been there for many years, and he's retiring, I believe. And so the thought was this year, sort of to honor the Iowa tie there, but also unique situation where two collegiate bands
Yeah.
had one game.
Oh,
would share
you're right.
halftime performance rather than doing separate shows.
Yeah, you're right. Ohio State is the away game, and I'd heard there was going to be some meshing. So it's tough winning at Columbus. Last time we played Ohio State, you remember 2017 was 55-24, and I'm sure you were all out in the field celebrating. So we'll deal with that game. We're worried about South Dakota State. So. You've been great. Maybe one more question. If you have other comments or concerns or suggestions, you can come up afterwards. But did you get the hand up? We'll do these two more then. But
The lawsuit against the athletic department by some former football players, is that still ongoing?
it is. It's scheduled for adjudication in 2023 at some point. And can imagine not in a position to say much, but I can attest to the quality of people I know in the football program, and demanding. You don't want to be demeaning. And Kirk has made some changes. Echoing just something like Twitter. He was viewing that as a parent. He didn't want our kids to be open to all that garbage, oftentimes attacking them. But serious subject, and we'll see. But I have great confidence in Kirk as a person, in the program, and we'll see how it's adjudicated. Making the NFL is tough. If you're good enough to make the NFL, they'll get you in there. So we'll see. One last question.
I was just wondering if you could give an update on the Ada Jones.
It's a legitimate question. Again, that young lady has not signed. She's a verbal commit to the University of Iowa women's basketball program. And just a tragic situation that's public knowledge down in Louisville. A family of 4 at a national tournament and hit by a driver, compromised by painkillers. The father was killed. The young brother survived. The mother in a challenging spot, and Ada Jones, who's verbally committed to the University of Iowa, so that is public knowledge. Long way to go. So we wish her and her family nothing but the best. She's going to be a senior, so in high school in Kansas. So she is a part of the Hawkeye family, and has gotten support from the coaches. But you really have to be careful what you say. So that's common knowledge. So Lisa and Jan actually went to Louisville. Kind of somber into that. But somebody got one last positive one?
What's your personal prediction for the football season?
Always optimistic. Think we're going to win in every contest, in every sport. So we're going to beat South Dakota State and go from there. Thanks for your loyalty, your enthusiasm, your generosity. It's appreciated. It's important. We'll keep coming over here with Hawkeye updates. And if you have questions, comments, etc. afterwards, just come on up. But thank you very much. Thank you very much.